Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me, sometimes is Logan.
Oh,
How are you
I'm
today,
back,
Logan?
baby. I'm back. I don't know who comes back. I don't know who comes back. Michael
Uh,
Jordan. He came back. That's wrong sport.
Somehow Logan has returned.
Yeah,
Um,
back from the brink of extinction.
but yeah, because Logan missed last week. He was busy traveling or getting started with his new job and stuff. So I didn't want to bother him.
Oh, I mean, this is bothering me, but I mean, we're going with it anyway.
Yeah, so we are back and we are kicking it off here. This is our episode where we'll be talking all about the Leagues Cup final, the third place match, and the season is restarted already on Sunday. So pretty interesting. But yeah, Miami has lifted their first ever trophy. Nashville played a hell of a match. Logan, I asked this to people last week and I put it on the poll too, but on Twitter. Have those two clubs surpassed the Philadelphia Union at this time?
I mean, I would say momentum wise, yes, but I mean, it's tough because it's like how deep Miami is into the standings. I think it's like we talked about. We talked about this last time I was on, where it was going to be difficult for Miami to make a run into the playoffs. However, that being said, I think if Miami runs into the playoffs, this isn't a team that anybody wants to face now. So, yeah, I mean, I think if they continue this, they'll be pretty much unstoppable. Which is a kind of a scary thought, right? Is he's still learning the league, and it seems like he's figured it out. He being Lionel Messi. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this, like as far as adaptation to a different league. But leave it to the GOAT and leave it to somebody that I think is going to be probably the top player in this league for a very long time.
I think it's interesting, like you said, that you never seen it like this, and it's like I feel like the pressure's more on him, even though it isn't, because in the sense of they built around him, right? So the
Yeah,
pressure is for him having to score, or and he is,
right.
scored 10 goals in 7 games.
Yeah,
Jose put a comment here: the Union beat the Union. Jim Curtin did some serious mental gymnastics and really messed up that lineup. That's exactly what my thoughts were. I talked about it last week. They were playing a formation that didn't make a lot of sense for them. I kind of understand what he was trying to do, but also it's like, he gave Chris Donovan the start, I guess, because he scored late in the other game. But I don't know. There and Ura wasn't great in that game, so I understand what they were trying to do. But once they went back to their usual formation in the second half, they looked a lot better. I mean, part of that could be that they were already 2-0 down, or was it 3-0 down at halftime. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to once you go down three goals, or 3 minutes in, the one goal, it's hard to kind of come back from that when you're shocked, like that. But on the end of Messi and Inter Miami and stuff, the final, I guess. I thought this was a thrilling game. This was everything I wanted it to be. I was very happy that what we got, uh, that this is not what we got when we sat down for Philly and Miami. What I mean, it wasn't a repeat of where where Nashville's like 3-0 down and it would have sucked. But the fact that it was 1-1 and a close game, and they kept end to end for stuff at times, it was like this is what I wanted, right? Like a really good match is all I really wanted.
yeah. I think we got. I mean, obviously, anytime you go to penalty shootout and the goalkeepers are taking penalties, Like that's a lot of fun in and of itself. Even when goalkeepers take penalties and they step up into the lineup, then maybe at the third or fourth, that's always fun too. But yeah, I thought it was, and again, going into Nashville, going into hostile territory like that's not easy to do. And like this Miami team has been really bad all season. Um, so the fact that it's turned so quickly on its head, and the three that come over are so polarizing for this team. It's wild to watch. Like it, I don't think
Mhm.
and people are going to say, well, yeah, the talent level is not there, but I mean, you're talking about especially two of these where I think Busquets and Messi, like those names were really well known. Jordi Alba, I think, he comes along and because of where he plays in position wise, he's not talked about a ton. But again, I think it's pretty interesting. And the fact that they literally throw Messi out there, Jordan, in this tournament that's a bonkers tournament anyway, to play against Mexican teams and to run the gamut of games. And yeah, maybe some miracles here and there, but like the Messi miracle in Miami, like the first free kick, that's like it's like the stories and the gods were all aligned. And now we see why he is the best player to ever do it.
Jose, where or Jose, sorry, where were credentialed? Like, where do you write for, or are you podcast? Because I know some people that are members of the union. I've also been credentialed for a union game before the first game of the season, so it'd be great to know where we can maybe follow some of your stuff if you want to put that. But Miami, it was a miracle Miami got past Dallas. I think that was a game too, though. But uh, I think each one of those teams kind of has those moments when you win a trophy. Like if we spin it, if Nashville had won, their special moment was that the fact that VAR overrode that penalty save of goalkeeper being off the line. Um, where they were really kind of dead to rights there. I mean, they like a score, or like I got a notification of the score being the game was over and all that kind of stuff, and then they reverse all that. So I think each team kind of has those. Like if the Union had won, I would have been like, man, they barely passed D, barely passed Toro. They like they full me too. I'm a Union fan, so uh, just say that. But I didn't think they looked their best this tournament. Miami was the best team in the tournament. Now in the final, I still think Nashville played the best. Nashville very very well in that whole final, and uh I look, I am a very I don't know what to say. Like I don't wear my heart on my sleeve, right? A lot of the times. Like on this show, I try to be very uh what is it? Not like transparent that I'm a Union fan, but also like I try
Very
not to let that
neutral.
judge, yeah,
Yeah.
neutral. I try to bring neutrality to my points here. Um I did not have a horse in this race at all. I was really watching this game and I was going back and forth. I was like, the Nashville story is great. They've been really good. I would love to see them win because they were playing very well. And then the other side of it was like the story wise of Miami winning it all would be great. Like in my head, I'm like, uh, which one, which one would I, you know, pick to win this game? And I really didn't know even as it went to penalties. I was kind of very torn of like, oh, who am I rooting for? And ultimately, I think the team of the tournament won, but I think the team of the match lost. Jose said, great point on the VAR call. I went to the post match press conference with Nashville losing, came out to the opposite. It was wild. That was crazy. Yeah, I told the story the other week, but I was literally, I watched it, closed it out as soon as it happened, and tried to jump to the Minnesota game. And then that was already done. And I was like, oh, I'll go walk the dog. And I would go out, walk the dog, and there's a tweet notification I get from MLS that says, Nashville won, and I was like, no, I definitely saw them lose. And then I'm like, that's a weird tweet error, and come back in and had to rewind and watch what happened. But I mean, this game had it all, man. We had goalies take penalties, and Logan, I'll tell you, I laughed this childlike, giddy laugh when Drake Callender converts his penalty and it goes into the roof of the net. And it was just this really great struck penalty. I laughed like this high pitched giddy laugh. I was like loving it, loving seeing goalkeepers step up and take those penalties.
Like rifle. It is fun. Like where was this? Was it? It was the U.S. Women's National Team recently that I'd seen a goalkeeper take their penalty, and same kind of thing, like just a straight up rifle into the back of the net. But again, I think it goalkeeper. I do too. I laugh when that happens. I still laugh when position players pitch in baseball. Like there's just really weird things to see in sports, like goalkeepers kicking penalties and having to be athletic enough to score goals like that. Like obviously they're athletic, they're diving all over the place. But a lot of theirs is tactical with their hands. They're not usually tactically gifted with their feet per se. I mean, some of them can punt it a mile long, but
well, I think that's interesting. I would love to see if there's a way to get data on this slogan that playing out the back has helped them take penalties. Like, are they better with their feet because they have to play out the back, or?
Yeah.
Because I mean, Drake Callender played it pretty well,
Yeah.
while the Nashville goalkeeper, who's not their starter typically,
Right.
I'm blanking on his name right now, stepped up and had to talk to himself and wasn't really getting, wasn't very comfortable stepping up to it. And he's more of like, I would say, your traditional goalkeeper, and that was Panico. Thank you. I totally blanked on that.
Yeah, and I mean, I've watched City, and Ederson's always said that he would like to take penalties, and he's one that I think could. I think he's gifted enough to where he could, but I believe he'd be just one that would just get up there and blast it. I think that's the other fun thing about goalkeepers. I think that's their go-to, is just to blast the thing into the back of the net as hard as they can.
Yeah, just put power into it, right? It makes it hard to save. They should know what's hard to save because they save these. I will say I thought Miami was going to lose this. When they stepped up Victor Ariola, to step up and take his penalty as the fifth, and he's not somebody that usually takes penalties. I was like, he didn't look comfortable doing it. I probably would have went Alba, and then I learned out Jordi Alba had never taken a professional penalty until he stepped up. But of course, he's raised in soccer culture and he buried it. Former Barcelona player. He steps up there, probably took those in training all the time. Jose said he got to speak with Drake after the Union match for about 5 minutes, and unreal how nice that guy is. That's good to hear. I think Drake Callender.
Oh, I thought
really
he meant
cool
the rat. No, okay.
Yeah.
When I first saw that, I was like, what?
Drake is down
like,
there.
Drake Callender. Yeah.
Drake. If he was wearing a Union jersey, then we know why they lost.
Right. Well, there you go.
Bad curse. But no, I thought that was really, really just a fun match. I mean, we even had a moment near the end where Miami could have won it with Campagna getting a one-on-one. It was a little tougher than that. But really, when I look back at it, Logan, I kept seeing tons of chances for Nashville. And I tweeted this out on our account too. I said, if Nashville loses this game, they'll have tons of moments to look back on, while Miami will really only have that Campagna miss. Because really, they didn't have that many chances that were clear-cut chances for Miami. Some of them that they did have clear-cut ended up being offside or, whatever. But it was Messi's goal that came out of nowhere. And really, like, by the 60th minute, I felt like it was all Nashville. And it was just absolutely insane game. This is like a legendary Leagues Cup match for me. It was fun. There was tons of great moments in it. The penalty shootout was great. We had Messi giving the armband to Yedlin since he was the captain before Messi and led the trophy, like how excited Messi was. He was like sprinting like he freaking won the World Cup again. Like this was a huge thing. Oh, don't apologize, Jose, but have a great rest of your night. Yeah, thank you for sharing some of your wisdom here in the chat. But all in all, I think the League's Cup was a huge success. This tournament apparently was heavily watched in the Spanish speaking, the final even 1.6 million, I think, on like Univision or something. And then you add in all the Apple subscribers that probably watched this. I mean, we probably have one of the most watched MLS games ever, even though it's not an MLS game, but it featured 2 MLS teams, not even a Mexican team in this final. And it delivered. I thought this was a really fantastic match. I can't say enough about it. I'm really excited for League's Cup next year now.
Yeah, and some of the I guess the benefits and reward of winning the tournament. Obviously, the trophy. I think Messi's 44th, if I'm not mistaken, which is insane. I got to imagine that his trophy case is really big. But I rewards in the fact that Miami now qualifies for the 2024 Champions League round of 16, and Inter Miami gets to play in the first round because they were the runner-up. Or sorry, did I say Inter Miami? I meant Nashville. Inter Miami gets the round of 16. Nashville automatically qualifies for the 24 Champions League. So there's a lot of benefits to this tournament, Jordan. And I mean, personally, like watching it back and watching some of the highlights of the games that I missed, like I would say I'd give this tournament like an 8 out of 10 to start because it was just so good. I think there's a couple things they'll tweak, but again, I really enjoyed it. I wish they would not have the group stage. I don't really like. I wish it was kind of a more traditional group stage. I don't really like the 3-team group stage and the point system, but man, I thought that the round of 16 or the final, I guess, final 8, gosh, there were some really good games. And the fact that it would be cool, like it does kind of suck that we can't go to the Mexican team homes because there's some of that. I think there's issues with some of the places that they would have to travel to. But it was cool that it happened on this stage. I think that going forward, teams are going to take this competition a lot more seriously. There were some teams, I think, at the beginning that kind of in that group stage were okay with, let's see what we get out of the group stage. And if we do, then that's when we really start to ramp it up. But gosh, kudos to Miami. Brought Messi in and never looked back. So that was a lot of fun. I love this tournament. I think it's got some really good potential going forward.
One thing I would love to change is the group stage. If there's a way to get it where it's not 3 teams in a group and it's like only 2 games for each team, like
it needs to be 4.
It needs to be changed somehow. I don't know, and maybe that'll change as they add in more MLS clubs because we might get to a more even number, you know? But
that's a good point.
Something has to change with that because I thought at points when we got to some teams being 2 games done already, it started to feel like it dragged a bit. And then you get to the round of 32 and then it was on fire again, right? Like it was kind of like that last week before the round of 32 where it was like we kind of know who's moving on. So let's get it over with. But yeah, you brought up the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the new name for it. 3 spots were up for grabs, all 3 claimed by MLS clubs. Inter Miami will qualify for their first ever Champions Cup. Nashville has made it in. I think that's their first time as well. And the Philadelphia Union beat Monterrey, was that 3-0, to win the 3rd place game, and that put them back in the Champions Cup next year. And like you said, Miami will go straight into a knockout or another round. I forget how they're redoing this.
Round of 16 for them. They go straight into the round of 16. So,
but yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Look, I understand that we had it in our home the whole time, right? But the fact that all 3 of those spots went to American clubs or MLS clubs, I feel pretty darn good about. I think this was
massive, yeah.
this was a pretty big deal. And you see how much that trophy win meant for Beckham and Messi. You mentioned Messi. He now has 44 trophies, which is the most ever in history for one player. So there you go, right? And he can add an Open Cup to that later this season as they play tomorrow night. And apparently, from what I saw from reports, Messi's going to start the US Open semifinal. I was kind of thinking he would sit because they have a game on Saturday after this. Logan, what's your thoughts on Messi potentially or will start versus FC Cincinnati?
Yeah, I was shocked. It actually, I was like on Google before, and it popped up live, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And it said that Messi was going to start, and I was like, "There's no way!" Like,
And Tata said, by the way, I want to add this, I just read this, that he is most likely to start every match he wants to beyond that. So if Messi wants to start, he's going to let him start.
I mean, I wouldn't tell Lionel Messi no. Not if the fans figure that out. That'd be good. But yeah, no, I was shocked. I thought for sure he'd at least get a break here before they start playing MLS games again. But no, they're going to go full into U.S. Open Cup semifinals. Try to win that too. Jordan, imagine them winning this U.S. Open, sneaking into the playoffs, running at the MLS Cup. Like, gosh, I think it'd be one of the most historic like turnarounds for a club that's sitting in last place in the Eastern Conference, maybe in any sport ever. Like because it was funny because I was in Charleston this weekend, and my brother sees highlights because he watches a lot of ESPN, and obviously it's all Messi all the time right now. And he's not a soccer fan at all, but he'll ask me, like he's asked me a couple times where he's like, so like, are they good now, or are they gonna make a run at the playoffs? I was like, yeah. I mean, it with the games they have lined up. I mean, I think it's possible, it's doable. We'll see what happens, but they got a couple games in hand that they could win and ultimately surge up and be, I think, 8 or 9 points away from that last spot with 10 games to go. Like, yeah, that's very doable in this league. So. Uh, it's all wild to me. The fact that he's going to play all these games, the fact that they're just going to keep going. Gosh, this would be the most historic turnaround for a team ever.
Yeah, I was hanging out on the Philadelphia Union subreddit and stuff with my people, and and they were like, now I get it. It was the game that they were playing against Miami. Okay, so I get it. I can understand how much for fans that would suck that your team is being overshadowed. And there was all these people like, why are they talking so much about Miami? Or we get it, right? Like, stop sucking off Miami is what they were saying, right? On the comments and stuff. And they were like, what kind of point was that by 12 minutes stuff? I was like, I don't even see what he said was wrong. Like, I actually commented, I don't know because I was like, they were complaining that he said about how they were at one point the worst team, that they were the worst team in the regular season, and in this cup they haven't been, and that they made changes by bringing in Messi, Alba, Busquets, and Tata Martino. And I was like, I don't see what's so wrong about saying that. I was like, this is also targeted to casuals, people that are just now watching, that have no clue what Miami was like beforehand. It's not
Yeah,
just Messi that came
yeah,
in. It's not just Busquets and Alba. It's Tata
massive
Martino
countries too.
came in. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tata Martino came in and changed this thing, right? Like, he is playing to his team's strength. Uh, so it's not just a player. They're like, well, yeah, but anybody would think that if you put Messi in a mediocre league, it would make them better. And I'm like, yeah, it would make them better, but like, it doesn't mean that they're going to be running away with a tournament the way they were. I mean, they made the Union look silly out there. Part of that was Blake's performance that day, so it was the formation, right? Like, it's different things, but also it's part of it's the other team. Part of it is the way Miami is playing. So I think sometimes we think like because we are steeped in it, everybody is, but some of this commentary, of course, is aimed towards casual first time watchers. So they know the first time watcher is there to watch because of number 10, right? Uh, they're going to explain how that relates to the situation. So I just thought kind of a weird complaint, but whatever. I it's just so weird the way people have been about this. I saw some people putting out, how this was all fixed. Um, I'm sure. I also some people upset that Dax posted a picture of like him holding Messi's jersey at home and said it wasn't a complete loss because he swapped jerseys with Messi, and people were like, "Look how embarrassing!" Like, look, he's a human too. He's a soccer fan as well. I'm sure he enjoyed his jersey, but he said it wasn't a complete loss, meaning that there was one upside, which was obviously he wanted to win, and it's not like Nashville totally laid an egg. They play their heart to penalties, so uh, yeah. But anyway,
When Spallman said that, did they suspend him for a week without pay because he was talking negatively about Inter Miami? Was that a concern that they
no,
had?
no,
Oh,
no.
good.
That's
Okay, good.
for Orioles announcement.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, but yeah. So apparently Messi is gonna start Wednesday and probably start Saturday. And probably start every single game the rest of the season if he wants. Um, Also, they do think he's going to be called up by Argentina this month, which means he might miss maybe some MLS action. Uh, if that's the case, that might be what keeps Miami from making the playoffs. But mathematically, they can make it. They can make it in the league I was talking about last week. There is like no reason they have 2 games in hand. They should actually have. They might have 3 as some teams because they didn't play this week. But they probably have like 2 or 3 games, and the way that they've been playing since Leagues Cup, I mean, watch out, like you said. Some big news happened over the weekend. Portland had a humiliating loss to Houston, and Monday they announced they've parted ways with head coach Giovanni Savarese. Did we have him on our hot seats recently? I thought we did, but I don't
Yeah.
recall.
Yes, because we talked about all of them because for a while there they'd all struggled in Cascadia because we were like, which one's going to be first? I remember the conversation because we were like, is it going to be Schmetzer, who Seattle was playing better and now is kind of we had we definitely had Vanni Sartini like really in deep. But it was like the whole. I think Jordan, we went down like the whole Western Conference, and we're like, this person's in trouble, this person's in trouble, this person's in trouble, because it was the time that we were talking about Vermees too. So yeah, like we've talked about. I mean, and again, you can look at the Western Conference, man. Like there's a lot of teams like Vanni Sartini. I could see if Vancouver doesn't play well. Adrian Heath will be in Minnesota forever. Peter Vermees, trouble brewing, but again, like I guess I don't know. He's still kind of in that hot water. Greg Vanny, like there's no chance that he stays. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of teams in the Western Conference, Jordan, that could be without a coach. It is weird that to not see Gio around anymore, but I'm assuming he'll land with another club because I think he's a good coach. I just don't think that there's any kind of personnel behind him anymore. So
It kind of took me for a surprise, but really, when you look at the numbers, it really shouldn't, right? Like, I mean, negative 12 goal differential. That's on par with LA and just a little bit better than Colorado. And they're now third bottom of the West. So they haven't been playing well recently. They're still only 5 points off a playoff spot, but I think at this point, again, we kind of question like how much goodwill does getting an MLS Cup help you out? How long do you get? And it seems like what we saw that with Caleb Porter and Columbus a couple of years ago, right? Like, or was it this year? I don't even remember. It was last year or the year before that they moved on from Caleb Porter, right? Yeah, because it was last year because Nancy just took over. Oops. Wilfred Nancy just took over. So it's those questions of like, how long ago was Portland? It's 2018. It's 5 years, you know? I think that's enough time to be like, well, you had time to build off of it, and we never really played well
They
enough
won
since then.
MLS is back, Jordan.
Oh, true. 2020. Yeah, that's true.
How dare you throw MLS is
That's
back under
true.
the bus?
Yeah.
My first, it's like my introduction into MLS. I remember watching that and covering it with you.
Yeah, that was
Unofficial.
that is interesting that because I totally forgot about MLS is back, as it did most people.
Yeah,
How do
everyone.
you rank those trophies? Logan, I asked this at the end of the last podcast. I asked fans, what do you rank your trophies? All right. You can add MLS's back if you want to. But out of what you can win, like right now, Leagues Cup, MLS Cup, Open Cup, Champ Cup, Supporter Shield. What's more important to you? What's least important to you?
Oh man, that's tough. Oh, I feel like people are going to be like, especially if you're listening to this, you're not. Well, I don't know why you would be listening to this. You're not an MLS fan, but maybe you are, or you're new. I mean, I personally think MLS Cup would be number one still for me, and then I would say Champions League, only because we've won it now. It's less rare for us to win it. People are gonna be like Champions League's better, but I don't know. I put a lot of stock into MLS Cup, so I'm gonna MLS Cup, and I'm gonna go Champions Cup, or I guess that's what they're calling it now. And then we'll do Supporter Shield. I would say Leagues Cup now over U.S. Open Cup. Then MLS is back,
Mm-hmm.
only because Leagues Cup's beating another team of or another
So
country team.
where was Supporter Shield?
Supporter Shield was third underneath Champions Cup. Supporter Shield.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
I just don't.
what I
Supporter
said
Shield, like,
last week was Champions Cup, MLS Cup, Leagues Cup, Open Cup, Supporter Shield. And I put Supporter Shield at the bottom because I felt like it's great sometimes to be the like, woo, we were the best team of the season and whatever. But I think I'd rather win an actual tournament that you get to have a final and prove that you can win the big game. Because as I with the Union so far, it's that proof of needing to win the big game that they haven't done, and their only trophy is a Supporter Shield from a short 2020 where they only played the same 6 teams or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was that is how I rank them right now. Like, especially because it's not a balance in MLS. So I have Supporter Shield down. I mean, of course, I want to win every trophy, right? Like that. I'll take whatever trophy we can get as a fan of a club or whatever. But I think Champions Cup is number one because it's the big one of the region. You get to go to the Club World Cup, but also MLS Cup has got to be number 2 because that's the big one, right? Like that's the one that we judge success on in this league. And when we look at Savarese, and I say, Savarese, and I'm like, he hasn't won something in 5 years. Like he hasn't won MLS Cup in 5 years. That's a big thing. We don't really count the Western Conference trophy or the Eastern Conference trophy, right? Um, that's interesting. I'll have to see. Let me check to see how many they have trophies if I'm missing one or something. MLS is back, like you had said, Logan. And then they also had so they've been Western Conference champs in 2015, 2018, 2021. That's right. They reached the final in 2021 and they lost. Oh my god, no. So they actually were runners up in 2018. That's right. Because 2018 was when they lost to Atlanta. So I'm still doing my math wrong here. So 2015 is when Portland won their only MLS Cup. I should have known that too because 2015 is actually when I I was visiting Joy, and I was at her apartment on that day watching the game, and then driving home listening to it on the radio the rest of the day. But geez, so who was their manager? Was Caleb Porter then? So Savarese only won the MLS is back and got them to 2 MLS Cup finals. So it's understandable that I mean, they were really regressing from being 2018 in a final, 2020 winning MLS is back, 2021 reaching a final, and then now you're third bottom of the West. I think it's appropriate time to move on.
But here's one that I'm always interested in as a sports fan. When somebody, okay, so like 2020 wins MLS is back, which is a makeshift tournament in crazy circumstances. But to have him in 2 MLS Cup finals, like he's obviously still a good coach. And that's always interesting to me. I know the message is probably lost, and that's where the firing happens, was when a coach loses the respect of a locker room. Like, yeah. But like there's so many teams out there that could use him. I imagine he won't be unemployed long. But it is interesting to me just because it's like, you have a good manager in him. He obviously knows how to coach and manage in this league. But because you put together a couple of spells of bad years, I think there's some anxiety and some fear with that as an owner, as a GM. I think you kind of go introspective and you're like, oh my gosh, like people are going to think I'm doing a bad job if I just let this guy continue. But you also know he's a good coach. Like there's no denying that. So it's always interesting to me when they go that kind of deep. They've taken this team and they just can't get over the hump. I honestly would say it's been more of the personnel that he's been given. Like I'd say he's had an aging roster for the last 2 or 3 years.
Injury riddled roster at times too.
Extremely, yeah. Yimmy, like you had him, Claudio, like you had Claudio. I always want to call him that. The other Bravo, and then you have I'm blanking.
Blanco was out for a bit.
Yes, Blanco was gone. Diego Valeri was hurt, so I was blanking on that name. I wanted to say another name, and that would have been offensive to the Portland Timbers. So I was about to say Nico Ladero, but that's I get them mixed up.
Yeah, so I mean, that's crazy to think. I could have sworn Savarese had won an MLS Cup. There you go. I was wrong. But now that I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that is right. You know what? I was probably thinking MLS is back as a legitimate cup. It's probably what I was thinking. But yeah, they had a good run there. 2018, 2020, 2021, of being in finals and winning one of them. But look, it's 2 years later. They're third bottom. I keep seeing people say Josh Wolf should be next. You do know Austin's in 7th place right now, right? For everybody saying that. I mean, it's not a great position. It's not. I do assume Wolf will probably be out at the end of the season, though, so that way they can have their new director of football actually make their own hire. Is what my guess would be. But okay, Revolution goalkeeper Jordy Petrovic tied to going to Chelsea. Apparently between 17 and 20 million if the deal is completed. He's 23 years old, Petrovic, and remember, got here April of 2022. He was kind of holding out in training the other day before one of their big matches. Did win, and then he started the next game and they lost. But Petrovic looking to move on to Chelsea after he came over for $1 million, and Revolution might get 19 to 20 for him. That's talk about bang for your buck.
Yeah, this situation's weird. And only because of the circumstances it's happening in. Like, we still haven't gotten any transparency from the Bruce Arena suspension and what's going on there. They're in 2nd place. That's wild to me, Jordan, just because they've snuck up into that position. Like, in the night, snuck up there. So this is all, you know what, Jordan, you know why Bruce was suspended? He he called Petrovic a gold digger, didn't he? He was like, "You just want money," and they were like, "Yeah, Bruce, you're suspended." No, I don't know what it was, but this would be a
Still
huge
don't. He's
loss.
still on
Yeah,
leave. We don't have no
nobody
clue.
knows. Did you see? There was a source that texted him Monday. What's today? Tuesday. So yesterday, texted him and said, "Is there anything that you can tell us?" Texted Bruce. Bruce said, "No, there's nothing I can tell you at this point." It's very weird. Like, and this is part of the problem I have with MLS. This is most of the problem I have with MLS. You can't be taken seriously as a league if you're not letting that kind of stuff out as to what's going on. Like, this should be 100% told to the fans. Like, not specifics, but there's nothing. Like, there's no trail. There's no. The team hasn't said it. Like, sometimes the players will leak stuff. Like, there's nothing. It's so confusing to me. Like, this is such a confusing. But again, it's part of that, I think, transparent. And I know you don't want to go out there and like, oh yeah, he used a racial slur or whatever it was. But to be on administrative leave, he had to do something bad, like so bad that they have to take him off the field. Like, they're like,
Well,
well,
they're
can't be
investigating.
with the
I
team.
don't even know if we know he did something, but they're
I guess,
investigating.
yeah,
Like, we don't even know.
yeah,
I mean, I've seen so many of his former players come out and say like, Bruce is the nicest guy. He would never,
right.
like, he cares about people as a whole. He would never say something like that. So, and Kaylin Kyle had to come out and say that
Excruciating
she was
apologies.
wrong
Yep.
about what she had quoted. She didn't actually know, and she said it was racial. So maybe it wasn't then, right? Like, I just either tell us, or I don't know, how long should this take? There's got to
Yeah.
be witnesses or recordings of
Right.
it, right? Like, there has to be some way that you can tell us. You have to be able to figure it out. I mean, this isn't a Wander Franco situation where they have to really
No.
dig into stuff
Shoot. Yeah.
and go through a legal channel, right? So, like, there has to be something. Many people had to see this or something. But yeah,
Solid.
Petrovic going to Chelsea. I don't know how much time he'll get there. Chelsea did just move Kepa and Benjamin Mendy, or
And then they
Edward
got
Mendy,
Gaga too.
not Benjamin
So
Mendy, Edward Mendy. So, and they have Gaga. That's right. So who knows, right? We'll see how it goes. All right. So where we currently sit on the conference standings here, Cincinnati, first place in the East, 51 points. New England, 43 points. Philly, 40. Orlando, 40. Columbus, 39. Nashville, 38. Atlanta, 38. Montreal, 32. Chicago, 32. Under the playoff spots, we have DC with 30, and they moved on from Taxi Fountas. That investigation was quick. New York Red Bulls, 29. Charlotte, 26. NYCFC, 26. Toronto, 19. Miami, 11. Hey, guess what? Seems like firing Bob Bradley did not automatically turn around Toronto's season at all. So I don't think it was a Bradley issue at all. Over in the West, St. Louis, 44 points. LAFC, 37. Their game got moved to tomorrow because of the hurricane. RSL, 37. Seattle, 36. San Jose, 35. Houston, 32. Austin, 32. Vancouver, 31. Minnesota, 31. Dallas, who I had pretty high on my projections here, at 30 points with 10 in 10th place. SKC in 11th with 26, Portland with 26, LA Galaxy 22, Colorado 19. And I would assume if LA Galaxy cannot get it together at the end of the season, Greg Vanney will be gone. Right? This kind of feels like how that's probably going to go.
yeah, I don't see any way that it's not going to happen. They're going to be in total rebuild. I don't know. They got to figure something out.
Supporter Shield standing: Cincinnati with 51, St. Louis with 44, Revs with 43, and Philly with 40, Orlando with 40. So that's your top five. Logan, I saw some Union fans saying, hey, we got a game in hand. That put us only 8 points back or something of Cincinnati. what teams actually have a real chance of winning the Supporter Shield outside of Cincinnati? Do you see any there?
No, I like 7 points. How many games did they play? They played 24, so they've got 10 left. No, I don't know. 7 points, and again, I go back to my Man City days when they are playing well, and you get that 7 point gap. That's 3 games technically. Like yes, obviously the math you could win two and draw one and be even with them, but like realistically, you'd have to do you'd have to win 3 games more than Cincinnati wins over the next. So it doesn't feel like that's going to be possible. Cincinnati, man, they just it's like once you think you could get back in with them, they just expand their lead even more. So I don't know. I just feel like even with the games in hand, you could get 46 from New England, but I think this whole Bruce thing's going to be distracting. Whatever's going on, doesn't
Petrovic
matter
is
what
going
it
to be
is.
gone,
Yeah,
right? Like that's going
yeah,
to be tough if they can't immediately replace
right.
his level,
Yeah, Union
which is
fans,
like
close your
one of the
ears.
best.
Yeah, Union fans, close your ears. I don't think this is your year. It's not going. It's just too. It's too up and down. It's too much of this, and I think there's just pieces now missing that they need.
I'd
Um,
rather. Sometimes this is what happens too, right? You win the league on the year you're not the
it's
best, right?
true.
Like we've seen it in baseball,
Yeah,
we've seen it in football,
see it in
right?
basketball now too. Yeah,
Like we see it in
the eighth
football.
seed in Miami went to the finals.
Ravens went 14-2 in 2019 and lost in
Yeah.
the first round. The Patriots went undefeated and lost in the Super Bowl. Sometimes
Yep.
that's not the year. Then
Oh,
the
the best
Giants
team. You
were
don't
like
want to be the best
500,
team. Yeah.
and then a worse Patriots team can get to the final and win. Same thing with this, right? Like you'll have a team that could look. LAFC had won the Supporter Shield last year. They were one step away, a couple seconds away from the Union winning the the cup. Right? It was a Gareth Bale header late in the game that changed it. While, uh, so it's not like a guarantee just because you're good. So I would rather take. Let's not focus on the Supporter Shield. If I'm the Union, I'm like, let's just try to get in a good spot table wise that we can hopefully, you know, make a run in the playoffs. And people will say, but you want home field advantage. That didn't matter worth a crap against Messi out there, right? So yes, we probably would have won the cup last year if it was at home instead of LAFC. But you can't say that for certain. We almost won at LAFC, right? So I mean, like it doesn't always compute that way. So you're not always gonna win it when you're the home field advantage. You're not always going to win it when you're the best team in the league. So I say let Cincinnati have it. What are the chances Cincinnati, nice shirt by the way, are going to go ahead and win both of those things? Right? Like not very likely. Could be possible, but I think usually only the best teams really do that. Like record-breaking teams usually do that, which I don't think Cincinnati is.
No, I think you're right. They're good defensively. They're not one of the. If you look at the
They're a legit
goals,
contender, though. I
you
will
know,
say that. I'm not saying
they
like I'm
are.
not crapping
Oh
on them.
yeah, no, they are. Like I think if you have betting odds up, I think they would be one or two. I guarantee you that Vegas would give the line to LAFC, just from past experience with other sports that come out of LA that for some reason get heavier odds. Um, but Jordan, I guess I can pitch a question to you as far as like, so now we're back, right? We're in this final stretch of 10 games ish for most teams, 9 games. Um, who do you see as maybe like an emerging threat? Like, is there, let's, I guess don't go with Miami because that's very far. The odds are very
How about how
against
about
Miami.
do you want me to pick a team that's in a playoff spot as a contender?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do? To
Yes.
win
To win it
Supporter
all.
Shield
No,
or
no,
win
no, no, no,
Okay.
no. To win MLS Cup. Like if you had, because we're getting now into that sweet spot where like the next 5 games is when you really have to turn around because that's playoff implications. But like once you get down to like 6 games left, like that's the momentum you're taking into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of stuff shake out in these next 10
Yeah,
games
we will.
because uh So, like, decision day is probably going to come down to maybe like 3 teams each conference. It's not going to be all of them. So, the top half is going to be pretty sealed soon. I love the way, even though Nashville's in 6, I love the way they played in Leagues Cup. If they can bring that energy to the MLS Cup playoffs, I think there's a chance that they can win it all. I would also say I really like the way the Crew play. Though sometimes they're very hot and cold. But I think if they get hot in the playoffs, then watch out for the Crew, right? Like, that is something I would say. I'm worried about New England after losing Petrovic and not having a manager, really. So I can't really give it to them. The Union, I feel like, have been very hot and cold at times. I think they have a chance if they play to their strengths, but I feel like Curtin's kind of doing this Pep thing where he'll kind of tinker with something in the worst time. So I'm kind of worried about that. Orlando, I don't see as legitimate. Sorry, Logan. I can't.
No, I don't
I
either.
can't
They'll
see it.
choke under pressure. It happens all the time. Don't blame them.
So in the East, I would say I'm at Columbus and Nashville. If it's not Cincy.
I really like your Columbus shout because if you look at their goal differential, it's 15 plus 15. They've given up 33 goals, which if you look at the goals allowed, it's not that like it's not great. It's not really good. But if they figure out how to play defensively, Jordan, and they can sneak into a home field advantage kind of thing, they score goals out the ears. 48 goals. That's insane. The cat's attacking me if you're watching on the video. It's great. But the fact that the Crew have 48 goals, if you had to tell me, Jordan, the top 2 teams in goals scored this year, and sorry, my cat's like mauling me. But yeah, no, if you had to pick right teams, I don't think many people had on their bingo card Columbus Crew and St. Louis leading the charge as far as goals scored this year. So I'm excited about that. Eastern Conference, Nashville, Columbus Crew. If I'm looking at the Western Conference, like I really do think the Western Conference is the weak side this year. Like I really do think that all the contenders pretty much are Eastern Conference, unless you're talking about St. Louis and maybe St. Louis or the LAFC and maybe St. Louis. And I know people go, well, St. Louis is first place in the West. I'm hesitant because of the start.
I can't see them winning the whole thing.
I can't
right?
either.
Like I think they've had a really great first season.
I
I
think
don't
so.
think that's a bad thing, right? Like I don't think if they lose round 1 even, it's a bad thing. This is their first year. It's gonna be tough. They didn't impress in Leagues Cup. If I'm looking at the West, I kind of like Houston if they get hot, honestly. They'll have these games where they win like 4-0 and you're like, "What?" and then they'll lose, right? But I kind of like Houston in that regard, but man, it's amazing ourselves in third. If I'm picking a West contender that's not St. Louis, if we're kind of following the same theme of not picking the team that's on top right now, obviously LAFC is an option. But look, I might go really bold here and say I really like Houston. I wouldn't be shocked if they make a run. They may not win it all, but I wouldn't be shocked if they make a run. There's still time for them to totally suck, though. I mean, they can drop out of the. They're only 2 points up, but they're in 6th place. I just kind of like the way that they've played. Sometimes
I'm looking at XG and XGD, which is expected goal differential too. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like what Seattle's done either. 29 goals scored this year. Their XG is 38.4. Their expected goal differential would have been 13.7. They've only scored 29 goals. Like they defend well. Like they're easily one of the best defenses in the league. But the fact that they are so low in goal scoring is shocking to me with the roster they have. But again, people probably shout the rooftops because we don't include them in the conversation. But if you're not scoring goals, you're not going to win. You only have 29 goals. It's not a lot. It's kind of worrisome. Like those are those kind of again. It's the same thing Orlando City struggles with. Like they just don't score like they need to contend. So
I guess this either though, but St. Louis has 49 goals. That's
Yeah.
pretty 19 goal
Yeah.
differential. So I mean, I just that would be a miracle run in for the first time since Chicago that a first year team would win it all.
Did LAFC not win in the first?
No, they just won it last year for the first time.
Oh, duh. Why did I
Um,
think there was a team out there that just recently?
Atlanta was their second year because they were 2018. They
That's what
started
I
in
thought it was.
2017.
Yeah,
Chicago
you're
won it in
right.
'98. I think that's the
Yeah, I
time.
think you're right.
So they I mean, look, their goal differential is the best in all of Major League Soccer. So I don't want to sell them short. I just think I'm probably limiting them a bit because every year. Like I think sometimes you just need the experience, but man, I think also the issue is that they've had 8 losses is what I'm looking at, which is more than some of those teams below them. They just don't draw a lot, which instead they would be kind of on par with like a Cincinnati or something.
Yeah, shoot. I didn't notice that. You think you could grab a couple draw? Yeah, you're right. They're up there with Supporter Shield. Uh,
Yeah.
wow.
Uh, okay, so I guess we can kind of wrap it up. It's great to talk the league again. We're back. We're back, baby. We are back. Here's our schedule coming up. Cincinnati hosting Miami at TQL for the Open Cup. Houston RSL at 9:30 for the Open Cup, and then we have LAFC in Colorado, a makeup from Sunday because of the big hurricane that hit the West Coast. Saturday we have Atlanta, Nashville. That's free at 7:30 on Apple TV. Charlotte and LAFC are also at 7:30. Cincinnati, New York City, Columbus, Toronto, DC, Philly. Now that's free on Apple TV. Montreal and New England is free as well. New York and Miami, Orlando, St. Louis. Those are all 7:30 matches on Saturday. 8:30 Dallas and Austin. That's free. And San Jose is free. Then at 9:30 we have Salt Lake versus Houston after they just play each other in the Open Cup. They get to face each other in this regular season. LA Galaxy and Chicago at 10:30 and Portland Vancouver at 10:30. So there you go with that. And then Minnesota Seattle is on Sunday at 4:30. That's free and also on Fox. Big Fox, main Fox. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. I'm glad to be back in the league's play. Final stretch.
Yeah, we get the
10
final
9
stretch,
games.
then we get another tournament.
Yeah. All right. So, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really the playoffs will be really fun this year. I think. I know a lot of teams get in it, but once we narrow it down, man, this year could be magical. I'm hoping for a Miami run. I really am. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch, see what they can do. Maybe they could sneak in, and then playoffs would be off the charts if he got in it.
Be yeah, that'd be great. I'm really excited. I love talking about all of this kind of stuff as we get back in the league play and just theorizing, even like just us theorizing right then on who we think even has a shot at some of this is fun because look, sometimes it's hard to do analysis on this because a random team is just going to win it anyway sometimes, like last year we had the 2 best teams in MLS. I don't think that's happening this year. Like I don't think we're getting Cincy St. Louis, which by the way would be a hell of a fall with that region, right? Like right in the center of America.
Right
I
in the
kind of like
heartland.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens like that. Yeah. But go ahead and follow us. Messages at Stateside Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, statesidejoe@gmail.com. And we will catch you all next time.